Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Forever Young. I'm your host, David Linton, and this is a show that celebrates life in all stages, but particularly in that stage of life when one is supposed to be retired or elderly or whatever kind of description you want to use. But we all know that age ain't nothing but a young number, and that's why we have this show. We like to of Hope TV. We'd like to thank our producer, Benton Lanton, and of course our executive director, Dr. E. Dewey Smith. And you know that you can share this through all of our platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can make sure you might be watching us on Roku TV or Apple TV. Everywhere. We're glad that you're here for another edition of Forever Young. And today we're going to talk about a topic that's really important. I think one that if you are, as I like to say, have a minority, especially in this country, you've always been fighting for survival, fighting for whatever. But really when you get to a certain age or you face certain challenges, you got to have a certain resiliency, something that inside that keeps you fighting and keep you going. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And we know that people, as we age, we have to overcome different things, whether it be depression, loneliness, friends go, come. So again, this is about fighting and survival. So we're going to have a great show. We got a great panelist. And of course, before we go any further, I must welcome my exciting co-host, Miss Jean Hendricks. Good evening, Jean, and welcome to the show. Well, good afternoon.
Hi, David. I am always delighted to share this post with you as your co-host. You are awesome, and I look forward to every Wednesday and Thursday in our taping. Thank you. Back to you, David.
Well, as we start these shows every week, I know we've got some great guests, but you always have a poem that kind of sort of set the stage. And when we come back, we're going to find out what that poem is. But first, I want to introduce our first guest. She is an accountant at the House of Hope, a vibrant young lady, and she's got a story, and we'll get into that. But I'd like to welcome Miss Maxine Alexander.
Hello there, David and Miss Jean. It's nice to be on your show today.
Well, it's our show because we share here. Thank you. And also, we have our executive pastor, Dr. Sharon Mitchell. She's no stranger to the show. She's been here before, and we like to welcome her back to the show. Dr. Mitchell, invite you
David,
back.
And thank you. Thank you, David and Jean. I'm so excited to be back on Forever Young. Glad to be asked back, and I hope to have a good time today.
Well, I know we were, and I know I'm have a good time. Always the only guy with everybody out there who's watching, eat your heart out.
Yes.
As I said earlier, every week when we get started, Jean has a poem that sort of sets the tone. And today we're talking about fighting, resilience, and bouncing back and not being defeated. So, Jean, what do you have for us this week?
Okay, for this week, I found this poem, and I've, of course, paraphrased it. And it talks about the fight within individual people. And it begins by saying, I fight my battles. I fight hard, fighting the battle all alone. It doesn't matter whether I lose, but I have to win. So I fight with love and courage in my bone. And I fight hard, fighting this battle all alone. It's for my people's safety and for my own. And I fight hard, fighting this battle all alone. I won't dare let my family see me groan and moan. I must fight this battle alone. I won't forgive myself if they are sad because of my groan and moan. I can't forgive myself if they are trapped between. And I fight hard, fighting this battle all alone. So I fight with love and courage in my bone as I stay forever young.
All right. Well, thank you. That, again, that's a beautiful piece. I don't know where you find them, but they're always apropos for what we're talking about. Now, because when you said that in that poem, you said a couple of words that stuck out with me. One, alone. As
Yes.
people age, there's always sometimes that feeling of loneliness.
Yes.
You said family, you know,
Yes.
they either have family or lost a lack of family. But then there's strength, you know,
Yes.
and then there's guilt because whatever they're going through, they don't want to burden someone else. So
Yes.
those are some really good points, and we're going to try to how we can have a conversation around some of those points. And so I want to reintroduce Maxine to our show. Maxine, what is strength, and are there any challenges that you've gone through or going through that you have to go within to fight to keep that beautiful smile on your face?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Miss Jean couldn't have found a better poem to bring up our subject today. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going through a medical journey, as I call it. I was diagnosed last July with stage 1 breast cancer. And from there, um, I have been a fighter, have always been one that is a go-getter, and this was no different. I told my girls and the family, and when I say family, I'm talking about the House of Hope, the staff, and those that know me. I said, this is something that God ordered, and therefore I'm going to get through it, and I'm going to win.
Yes. Yes.
So far,
Hallelujah. Oh.
I would say that I have gone through, I call it 3 phases of this journey. The first phase was chemotherapy. The drugs were very harsh, and I persevered. The staff prayed for me, showed love, and my family. So that put me through. I had to go through radiation therapy. That was 21 days, 5 days a week. And let me tell you, I did have a meltdown. But again, I come to our staff meetings. I never say that I'm not doing well. I tell them I may be struggling, but I keep pushing.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
asked them not to make me stay home, but I did have to start working from home because I was very fatigued. And it just motivated me to know that God put the right community around me, Pastor Smith, the staff, Dr. Mitchell, everybody, still supports me today. So I'm very grateful. And with the love that I have, I thank God I'm not alone. And I'm a vibrant 65-year-old, and I'm going to keep.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Okay,
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Maxine, thank you for sharing that with our audience.
Yes.
A couple of takeaways, and there is the fact that you were diagnosed, but in stage 1, which means you went for regular checkups, which is really
Yes.
important. And I think I want to share that with people, especially in the African American community. I also was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer and beat it, but because I had early checkups. And so that's something we don't do. So again, I really want to point that out. But your strength and your courage.
Oh, absolutely. But let me just interject one other thing to you, David. Like you say, early detection. And it was the thing of it is with me. You have to listen to that inner spirit because I can't remember, maybe about 8 years ago, I had an abnormal um, mammogram, and so I did have a mass. It was benign, and so last year when it was time for me to get my annual mammogram, the spirit said, "Ask for 3D," and I was obedient. And true enough, when I did, they found just not even a centimeter, but it was cancer, and the stage that I had breast cancer, stage 1, but it is a strand that they say is very aggressive. So therefore, I'm going through treatments for cancer as if I had stage 4. And I want you to know, Like I said, like you said, David, early detection means a lot. That's the key.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Very
Now,
good.
Dr.
Awesome.
Now, Dr. Mitchell, um,
Mm-hmm.
strength, inner strength. I mean, I think we've all had journeys. I'm sure I want you to share with us. But I just know you have to have a strength just in your position at a church with so many members, so many personalities, so many people relying on you, depending on you. So tell me about your strength and how it keeps you young and keep you going.
Okay, I like to share. When Jean shared the poem, one of the words that stuck out for me was courageous. And I think for particularly as African Americans, we understand what it means to be courageous. And part of the courage that you have to have is to face your fears. And as you face your fears, trust that God will give you what you need. Maxine shared with a community of believers, people standing with her. She talked about physicians. She talked about what the diagnosis was. But in the midst of all of that, there was a courage that she had to have. And I feel that that's what I've had from the very beginning. My mother shared with me as a toddler, I was given a diagnosis as a child where I was had something with my reproductive organs where they talked about, first of all, I would not have survived the surgery that they gave me, but after I survived the surgery, they shared with her that I would not have the ability to reproduce. And one of the things that my mom shared with me was that I was always that child that seemed to have that inner strength, a fight in me. And it's the fight that I believe that I had from a child that has helped me along my journey of all the challenges that I've faced in life, whether it was a loss of a husband, diagnosis in terms of medical diagnosis, or even challenging in the latter part of my life to even come up with a new position to go forward, even in that I've had the courage to say that God will equip me with what I need to face whatever is before me. And I think that's part of the fight. And when I heard Jean say the poem, what came to mind was the movie Rocky, when we talk about Rocky, who was in the corner. And when it looked like he was all the way down to the end on the ropes, you talked about having the eye of the tiger, the fire that just rose up within him. And I think that's what I've lived, had a life of, where somewhere deep within, there's something that rises up in me that trusts that God will get me through whatever obstacle that lies before me.
Right.
Well, we always have that inner fire, that extra something. I mean, and like you said, something that happened when you were a child. And so I think the things that we are really of all the parts of all our lives, all the experiences that we've had over our lives. And Jean, now you had fight because you were in the fight of fights, as I call it, being in America, because you were on the front lines in the civil rights. Just give us a little bit of how you got through that, and because we're all standing on your shoulders. So,
yes, David, thank you so much. I was deeply involved in the civil rights movement in Albany, Georgia. However, I still say the part that I played was very, very small. People tell me all the time, "Oh, no, it was big, it was big." But of course, I came along in a time where everything was segregated. You couldn't ride the bus, the front of the bus. You had to always go to the back of the bus. There was a water fountain in some stores. There was one for whites and one for African Americans, and of course, always that water fountain that was for African Americans was always dirty and dingy, but the white water fountain was always a nice, clean one. And then when we rode the bus, we had to go to the back of the bus. The front of the bus was always kept clean. We had to always go to the back. And my parents raised us to believe that we were special and we did not have to accept second-class citizenship. And the few times I did ride the bus, my mother never wanted us to ride the bus because the buses were segregated that way. And I just had to find out a couple of times what it really felt like. So I would get on the bus and I'll sit on the front seat just for the man to tell me to go to the back. So I did that. I went to the back of the bus just to see, well, what's the difference between these seats? Of course, those at the front were a little bit cleaner than the ones in the back. Okay. So anyway, long story short, I wound up becoming heavily involved in the Albany movement, went to jail, stayed 7 days, 7 nights, and 6 nights and 7 days in jail in a jail cell that was built for about 20, 25 females, and it was 67 of us in that cell. Those mattresses were infested with various types of specimens or whatever, but we decided we weren't going to sleep on those mattresses. So with my suggestion, we took all the mattresses and we piled them up on top as high as they would go. And I'm not going to say what happened to those mattresses after that. But anyway, some smoke started coming out of the mattresses. And of course, they had to enter and come in and get those mattresses out. So, of course, we thought that they were going to bring us fresh mattresses. Of course, they didn't. So we wound up having to sleep on what little bit of the little steel bed that we could, or on the floor by putting our whatever clothes we could on the floor to lie on that. Then another thing I did also is because back in the day we were told that we might be beaten, and so I wore a dress with little T-straps on it, because if I was beaten, I wanted my scars to be seen. So I wore it in hopes that, yes, I will be beaten. I will have the water hose poured on us. But our chief of police at that time thought he was smart and decided, no, we're not going to do that to them. So we were arrested, busload after busload after busload. So that was my small, tiny contribution to the civil rights movement. And my grandchildren, my children, and some people think I did a great, big something. But anyway, I enjoyed it. It was in my spirit, and I needed to know that my children, and I look back now, and I'm glad I did it, because now my children can sit where they want to sit, go to any school they want to go to. And back in my day when I started elementary school, you know, we always got the books that was handed down from other schools, and they were already used.
Right.
Okay?
So now we know you're an arsonist. Okay.
Nobody was supposed to pick up on that.
You know, but you know, again, Grace, that's the strength, and that's where we come from. You know, again, when Maxine was talking about, we talked about family. You know, she didn't have to go through it alone. She had out, a church family, not necessarily your birth family. It's that extended family, which is very big among the African American community. So, tell me, when you first, how did your extended family give you that strength? How did you draw strength? Because some cases, I'm going to let you answer that question, because I'll put a pin in, because like in my family, I've always been that go-to person. I'm the oldest of siblings or whatever. And so when, you get sick and you're down, you figure like, who do I go to? What's about your family and how that helped you? Go ahead,
well, the first thing that I did once I had gotten I went and did the biopsy, and it was ironic that Pastor Smith was at our staff meeting, and he was recognizing the staff been with him for 5 years or more. And when I came back from getting the biopsy, I kind of pointed to my chest and said, and then he was like, no, like, don't tell me. And after I got the confirmation, a week later, I came home. I told my children to meet me home. And I told them that I was about to go through this journey. And I did not want them to cry, because crying was not going to change what God had already orchestrated. My life has been already written. And then I said the same thing to Pastor Smith. And I said the same thing to the staff. I told them that I was going on a medical journey, and I wanted them to do me a favor. And everybody was like inhaling. And I said, I want you to not feel sorry for me. I said, I have stage 1 breast cancer, and I want you all to remain yourselves. Do not come and hug on me and make me cry, or you cry. I did not want anyone to be sad. So I asked the staff to just be themselves, and from a distance, everyone would come by and check on me. Did I need anything? And that was my strength. My siblings, they took it well, because everybody look at me and they get their strength from me. And like you say, I'm basically the go-to person, but in my time of need, everyone stepped in. So My immediate family, my church family, and my little community have all been wonderful for me. And
Well,
it's a blessing.
I wanted to take a point from what has started to the next question is that your mindset, how you approached it, because you said journey. You're not using any negative terms. You're using terms that could be encouraging. Journeys can be exciting. Journeys can be whatever you want them to be. So you're not painting yourself into a woe is me box, and that's great because your mindset and the way we approach life. That's why we're forever young, because it's, age ain't nothing but a number. It's all about a mindset.
Right.
So I will ask Dr. Mitchell, how do you think the will to fight keeps you young?
I think the will to fight keeps me young in that I'm like Maxine, I've been on journeys. I've faced other obstacles before. And so being an overcomer in the past lets me know that if God did it then, he can do it again. And so you can draw. So there's a will to draw from in terms of experiences for me, where I've seen God be victorious in my life. And so that journey, having that information and that will to draw from, it just strengthens me when there's a new battle, even if it's one that I've not faced before. And I think one of the things that Maxine points out very well for us is a community and how we can even draw strength from one another. When you're in a community of believers who they may not understand your journey, and in some cases there may be people in that community that have even had that journey and they've been overcomers. And we know that the word tells us that we're overcome by the words of our testimony. And so sharing with others, we can both draw strength from them and then they can draw strength from us, because certainly with Maxine, we've all been strengthened in terms of just how she's faced this journey herself. It has strengthened us to see how you can go through something that sounds like a diagnosis that may not be positive, but to see how she's doing it and how she's concerned about even those who are on the journey with her. So for me, it's been the will of all those things I've seen God and to draw from those and build from those as other obstacles come my way.
Well, that's, it's always key, because I always say, they say life begins at 40. I've said that many a times on this show. So if life begins at 40, everything before that is a dress rehearsal. So doing that process of dress rehearsal is where you really get that, you start building that inner character that my Jewish friends would say, that would help you get over whatever you're facing. And we know that we have traditionally have had to overcome so many things, as Jean indicated, going back to, segregation, even now having to have the common sense when people are telling us, well, as we face this pandemic, we've got to keep going, and we got to keep fighting and keep ourselves young, because we're all quarantined, and so we have to go and keep young and keep that mindset of going. So what do you do, Jean? How do you relate and push your not push, but encourage young people to keep that vibrant that you have as they're getting older? Because I know people that 30, I've had them say, oh my God, I'm 30, I'm 40. I'm like, oh, it's the end of the world. And so is there anything that you do that gives you that extra to say,
I think perhaps one of the main things is that you lead by example. The way you carry yourself can also help people that's younger than I am, because as I look at the three of you, you all are youthful. You are very young. And I am just so proud to say that I am 75 years young. And I look for a gorgeous Black woman at the age of 75. And I do a lot of self-talking to myself, and I also encourage young people. Even within my household, I have one young adult and one teenager that lives with me. And when they get down about anything, I try to reinforce them with positiveness, nothing negative, always positive. Whatever's going on in their lives, I try to help them to turn it around to see the good in it. Because my point in saying that is that God does not allow anything to happen to us or anything for us to go through that he does not want us to come out better than what we are before, what we were before. So that helps them to be good listeners. Even when it's a test at school. Oh, I'm gonna fail this test. No, you're not gonna fail the test. You're gonna pray about it. You're gonna study first of all. Then you're gonna take your notes, and then you're gonna self-talk the test to yourself. And then the next day you're gonna say, okay, God, it's in your hands. We're gonna pass this test. So don't go anywhere without taking God with you. Is one of my points I make to young people, and that too helps them to stay young. Don't get bogged down in your faults or your troubles. That's my take on that.
Now, Maxine. Now we know you're going through this medical journey, but I'm sure that there have been other times that some that weren't this journey, but you're like, I'm just tired. Like me, I say sometimes I just don't like people. I don't want to be around people. And so, I say that, jokingly, of course, but there are days when you just don't feel like, sometimes you don't want to get out of bed, but you have to go. So what are those things that you say or you do that keeps you going, that in turn keeps you young, because you without overcoming some things and moving forward?
Well, I love to work out. I love to dance. When I was in Florida, I line danced 6 days a week. And when I came here, I joined the gym. My sisters and I, we walked, and I was able this week to start back walking, and I walked 3 miles. So I was very proud of myself. And I think it's the genes too. I have to thank my mom and dad that it is the genes. But I tell my girls they're in competition with me, because when they get my age, they need to look as good as I look. So
I know that's right.
Yes.
Positive attitude is what I have. I tell them I come from a wealth of divas, and we have to keep it up.
That's right.
And that's it.
Yes.
Because it's a mindset. You got to say it. I mean, you don't believe it, no one else will.
Yes,
that's right.
And again, we all go through stages. I mean, I recently, just started a new position, going back to the beginning of broadcasting, but I was in broadcasting in my 20s, through my 20s, and then in my 30s I switched and went somewhere else, and then when I came to my 60s I switched back. It's like, how do you go backwards? I mean, even when I was interviewing for the job, they were like, "Are you sure you can do? You wanted to do this? Because I had some very high and just always the last word, and now in a position where I'm not necessarily the last word. I may contribute to the last word, but I'm not the last word. But again, it's it's that desire to be, to produce and to give that keeps you young and keeps you going. Right. And that's the thing that keeps me young, because I always want to show that I'm still capable. I want to inspire, because I think that's what we all want to do, is we all inspire. And so I think when it comes to that fight, another word that you said was that strength.
Yes.
Now we're all spiritual. I know we're all spiritual, we're all believers, but there are days even when that's tested. So Dr. Mitchell, where do you get that strength to stay young and go forward when that day you go like, the mythical little person with the horns and the tail is just acting crazy.
Yes. I mean, when it's the scripture tells you, when you've done all you can do, you just stand. So you have to call upon the Lord. There are occasions where you don't have anything left, especially if you're the person in the family that gives to everybody else. So you have to pull on the Lord. And one of the things about calling upon the Lord and trusting him, he never fails you. So there are some days that you, as you say, David, you wake up and you say, I don't have nothing left. I don't have anything to inspire anybody. I can't even encourage my own self. We know David said there were days that he had to encourage himself. And so there are days that you can't even do that. So you just have to trust the Lord that has gotten you through in the past. And so that's what I do. And when I've given it all and it looks like I don't have nothing left, I know that I got another well that I can tap into, and that's the well of the Lord and the trust in him.
Amen. Amen.
Now, Maxine, I just got to make a point here. You just made me feel really bad before I go any further. You just said you walked 3 miles.
Oh my goodness.
You're going through a journey and you walk 3 miles.
A journey.
And I'm pretty much fit. And I don't know if I walked around the block lately. So now I do my little steps, but I don't think I do it like that. So that's encouraged me to get out and start walking, So we're going to do those things. Now, Jean,
yes.
Do you other things that you do to keep you young that you fight through? I mean, because again, and see, that's going to be my fight, Maxine. I'm going to fight through and I'm going to walk and I'm going to do the exercise that I've been putting off.
Yes. And David, that's part of staying forever young. You've got to, you should include some form of exercise. Now, this morning I did 2.5 miles just this morning, and my goal is 2 miles per day, 5 days a week. I get out and I walk, and of course, staying in tune to your body, your health. When you feel things not going right, then in 24 hours, you need to make a contact with the medical advisor or your doctor to let them know what's going on. Don't hold on to symptoms and you don't know what's going on. So, it's just a headache. I'll be okay. It may be something else entirely different. 24 hours. If I've taken an aspirin and I don't feel better the next day, then I'm calling my primary doctor and we're moving forward. So that particular mindset, staying active, eating right, trying to stay within a certain size that I'm working on right now. I'm going to be all right, so don't laugh at me. But I am trying. Okay. All of that has to do, I believe, in forever young. And of course, number one is always staying in tune with your scriptures and also with God. Okay, back to you, David.
Yeah. Well, again, that's the key thing. We have to listen to our bodies. And especially men. And I'm going to speak to the men specifically because men don't like to go to the doctor. I remember my father, bless his soul, love him to death. But we say, you need to go to the doctor. And his response was like, if I go to the doctor, they're going to find and men just have this vision of going. And so we really have to take care of our bodies because they are a temple. But again, they are young. I have a friend, a neighbor. She's much older than us, and I won't say her age, but she works out and she's in gyms and she does CrossFit and she presses 20 pounds. I'm like, ooh. But again, I think those are the how we spend our days is what we do. Fitness is key, and fighting is a mindset. And is that the key to being young? So we really must have to, if we're not, to our listeners out there, if you are forever young, whatever age, we encourage you to start some kind of this program. It's just walking up and down the stairs. My wife is in real estate, and so she has a little thing, and she'll come back and she said, I did so many steps today. And I'm like, so what? and I walked from the garage to the car, and I got in the car and went. So I've got to be good. And then again, is there any competition at our age? Do you still find some kind of competitiveness that keeps you young? Where's that competitiveness, Dr. Mitchell? Is there any kind of thing that you do that's competitive? I mean, we all have that little yearn to win. So is there any competitive there that you draw from?
Well, I think you have, even with some of the games on your phone now, you can play in groups with people on the phone, word games, board games. I think with the pandemic, we all are now facing the opportunity to play board games now. And it's interesting that no matter how old you get, you still keep that competition, that competitive edge where you still want to win. And I don't think that ever goes away. So there are many ways for you to keep that going too. Even if you're raising the bar for yourself higher, it's a way to be competitive. So I do that. That's the way that I operate in terms of competitiveness, even if in some cases for against my own self in terms of raising the
Right.
bar from the previous area.
Right.
Anything for you,
Sure.
Maxine? Is there, and I
Well,
know we know what you're competing against, but hey, anything else that,
but like you said, we have to stay physical, and that also helps us when we do have any medical challenges, because once you have that body in good shape, it helps you to overcome. And I think by me being active, I've always exercised. I really think that played a key role in my journey to be
Right. Yeah.
successful, as well
Yes.
as staying useful as well. So it's a mind thing as well.
you know, you're absolutely right. And again, as we're getting ready to wrap up now, but you know, the exercise, going, being competitiveness, all those things that we were taught when we were younger, we don't lose those things as we age. We still
right.
want to be,
Yep.
we want, everybody wants to still remain relevant. You want to be competitive. You want to win, whether it's at bingo or playing golf, whatever it is, everybody wants to win. You know, so Dr. Mitchell talked about the games. You know, everybody's playing games on their phones. You know, and in our spirit to win, we are born fighters. We're born winners.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
those of you who are tuning in, this is Forever Young on Hope TV. I am so excited today. We've had a great panelist with Dr. Sharon Mitchell from the House of Hope, as Maxine Alexander, who's also from the House of Hope. She's a counselor. She's the money lady, so we like. Can we keep the money lady next? I like. Of course, my co-host Gene Hendricks. Again, it's a pleasure, because again, as we wrap this show up, we want you to know that if you live your life by the calendar, if you live your life by the clock, you're going to be depressed, because there are going to be days and you'll see times going by. But if you were to just live your life each day by taking care of your body, listening to your body, and then of course being spiritually sound, you can remain forever young. And so we want you to do that. So until the next time we get together, on behalf of my guests, our producer, Ben Aladdin, our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith, and all the people behind the scenes that make this and all the other telecasts happen, we thank you for tuning in to Forever Young. And remember, no matter where you go and what you do or how you feel, age ain't nothing but a number, and you are forever young. David C. Linton. See you next time.